the dark section of the face occurs only lines up with the light section of another face. What that looks like. It starts to get a bit more confusing. Hello in Italy. Hello Jade. Didn't find a proper username. Proper. Smells a little bit like Sharpie in the immediate vicinity, but typically I don't use Sharpie all that much unless I'm doing more general things that I'll refine later. And so there might be a smell at times. And when I do something like this, the piece of paper will smell like Sharpie for a while. I might mess with this. Okay, I think I'm going to mess with this, not entirely on a grid, but with ink and brush. I might even just start making shapes and interacting with them, and then come back. Mess with other stuff, but that means that I don't necessarily need to use, but I would rather use tracing paper. I still have a bunch, so I'm okay to do so. And this full sheet? Nope. Okay, here we go. I use Yasutomo Sumi ink. It's not in focus, but I use ink for painting things. Okay, so let's get decent brush. Is this a red one? Maybe I used it earlier today. We're just gonna start painting shapes and making a pattern out of that. This brush is not taking on ink that well. Let's try shoving it down a few more times and see if it helps a bit. Different brush. Let's see. This one feels better. For the sake of time and effort, I'm going to. Okay, so that's that, and this has to be. I'm not thinking through this as I'm working. Okay. It is a picture of myself on my shirt. Okay, this is a picture of me wearing a shirt of me wearing a shirt of me wearing a shirt of me wearing a shirt. You can buy these shirts for as long as I don't have them. So what I've been doing for a minute, is I have the shirt on my website up until I get the next shirt. I can't read that. Audio's a bit low. That might be your phone, because I have this. Let me just try twisting this a little. It might be the positioning of the mic, but nothing's different in the setup. I just have a mic over here. Could be you, could be me, but I don't have a significantly different setup, and my settings are all the same, audio-wise. The paper wrinkles some while I'm working. And I like to include that. Could be that I'm talking softer. There is something of like a map quality to things. I don't recognize that flag offhand, but glad that you're watching. I usually leave the wrinkles in. Depends on how things are being cropped and utilized and what I can get away with. Some of it gets lost in compression, which can be good or bad depending on what you're doing. It looks dark because I decreased the exposure. Am I frozen? No, I'm not frozen. The exposure, I made it darker in the background, but it's about 3:50. It's PM, so what is that? 15:50 if you're doing 24-hour time. But it's also winter, and so it's getting darker earlier here. Far enough north to where it gets dark, like around 4-ish now, after daylight savings time. So I'm not quite as blown out and with the lights that are here. There's a decent likelihood that I'm going to omit some sections when I come back to fill this in. I used to drink, but I drank too much for a period of time, and I find that I'm in a better state in general, and feel physically better if I omit completely. I have something of an addictive personality, which benefits me in some realms and hurts me in others. But I used to drink a lot of bourbon because I lived in Kentucky for a while, and so got used to that as a beverage. But currently I don't drink, but that's not because I think it's terribly wrong. It just didn't fit well for me. Is me wearing a shirt of me wearing a shirt of me wearing a shirt of me wearing a shirt. Goes back. This is the 5th one. It's the most expensive per frame animation that I've done. Or it's not exactly animation, but I've done some video edits where it cuts to the next one from the photograph that's on the previous. Inception pillowcase. Pillowcase is easier to fake it because it's just a rectangle on a rectangle. I do like things that is like a version of the thing. Okay. This needs to be white. Okay, those tiny bits fix it now. I get tripped up when I'm working on this a little bit. I am in the United States. If I'm working by myself, a lot of the time I listen to podcasts because it passes time a little bit longer with less music necessary. But as far as live streams, I usually do silence because Instagram will kick you off after playing music that's recognized for a period of time. And then if I try to upload it to YouTube, I'll have a similar issue. So I've gotten used to it more recently to work in silence. You can watch them on YouTube. If you search TraceLoops, you can rewatch lives there. If you're watching these on YouTube, there will not be comments displayed on the page right around in this area. So there might be instances where I don't restate the question and you end up mild to moderately confused, which is just something I'm trying to get better at, is restating the question so that people know what I'm responding to, even without having the text there. Thank you for saying you draw awesome. I draw, animate, and create things for income. It's a variety of what the actual thing is. I don't listen to music when I work because I'm live streaming, and most live streaming platforms nowadays are more litigious about taking down streams that are using music during them. Largely since people have been working more from home or remotely, and there's more live streams of musicians, there's a different sort of act with it. Okay, so This is, someone asked if this is a drawing or an animation. This is just a drawing. This is too involved for me to realistically animate. How long have I been drawing? I've been drawing in some capacity since I was pretty young, but if you're asking how long I've been drawing today, it's been about 35 minutes. Hello, Fazelsi, and what are you 11? Hello. Thank you, Fazian. I don't actively collect art all that much. Here and there, I'll get things from people or friends that I enjoy their work, but I'm not that active a collector. Best advice for improving drawing is to draw more. Do things that you're curious about. Look at the work or thing you want to draw and really see what it is that you like about it. Thank you on the shirt. It's the shirt of the shirt of the shirt. Everybody's different with their artistic practices, but as far as how to get better, I would just say working on stuff, being self-aware about what it is that you're doing, exploring, and if you're curious about something, allow yourself to pursue it. When did I find my signature style? It was something that developed over time. If I look back on older works that I've made, I can recognize elements of things. Then I'm like, oh, this makes sense. And it's still evolving. Giving myself restrictions is helpful in pursuing something, because it makes me solve problems as they're coming about. drawing and I'll read stuff again. What was it? Recursion is very interesting. Fractals and patterns. Yeah, I enjoy those at a distance. I don't like it being the end-all be-all, but giving myself some sort of restrictions or criteria that have some sort of mathematical or pattern sort of thing that I'm following or adhering to while pushing that a little bit here or there is something I enjoy a lot. How long have I been interested in drawing? When I was little, I did a lot of drawing. My mom's an art teacher. My dad has studied art, and so art has been something, or practiced art more actively in high school and continues to do so in different capacity now. So I've always had it peripheral, if not present. And so I've just pursued things. I've been more active in this sort of style and execution for the past, let's see, about 8 years. I've gotten iDubbbz and a Phil guy. I always forget his last name, but we're all just white people with glasses that have dark, generally parted hair. It's pretty not stereotypical exactly, but pretty consistent, average looking bits. Okay, so this one needs to be white. I get more people mentioning YouTube personalities on TikTok. I sort of missed the YouTube personality driven channels. I was in like 8th grade when I first saw any sort of YouTube anything. And most of those, there wasn't at that time, when would that have been? I forget, but at that time there were some channels, but it was not much personality driven items. It was more just like, here's something interesting. The first ones I really remember are stuff like Will It Blend? Hello, Phasa. Sorry if I'm saying your name incorrectly. Thank you, Slahi. Slahi. It's hard to know how people's usernames are, what they're representative of. But what I remember from what I consider early YouTube, where I was on MySpace and I saw someone post a video, it was like a music video, I'm like, how do they get this here without hosting it or making it Swift file or something like that, Flash animation buried in there, and it's just hosted remotely and someone's hosting it? What's that about? It was on someone's MySpace page. And so I went, and what I was seeing was largely stuff like Will It Blend was one that was big early on. It was just some people who had a powerful blender company and would put random things in the blender. Thank you, Art with Luke. That's very nice. Thank you, Mita. Mida Design. Been to France when I was younger. Don't remember much of it. Whatever people are comfortable working with is fine. You can work digitally. It's a more effective and practical way to work. Hope that I'm able to... Oh, wait, no, I didn't have any issues with that yesterday when I was... Sorry, all over the place. Have been to France. We went to Paris, but that was when I was pretty young. It was when the '98 World Cup was going on. And so there was stuff everywhere. I try to draw every day. I've been live streaming most days for about 2 months now. I wasn't this last week because I had some other stuff I was doing where I couldn't be streaming on the daily. I'd like to visit France again. I know that I have a number of followers that are also in India and in Brazil. Last time I was in Europe was Iceland. Before that was Denmark. Did Scandinavian stuff. In Denmark it was Copenhagen. So most people spoke English. Most of what I learned from when I was there was how to say like hello and thank you. Which is... Wait, is it hi or hey? You can buy a shirt guessing by the fact that I speak a little bit of Spanish. I can read Spanish okay. But I forget a lot of the words. I remember conjugation okay. So if you give me a verb, I can tell you how to make it so the right person conjugated it or is doing it, but I have trouble recalling the actual word itself. By the fact that you said bloody great, I'm going to assume that you might be in the UK, which I can ship there. But it costs, if you're buying one of the DTG shirts, the direct-to-garment ones, those are the ones where when I draw something and I immediately or pretty soon afterwards have it posted online for order, it's about $5 more. It's $5 more for Europe. European shipping, except for Switzerland, Iceland, and Luxembourg, because they have a higher cost for shipping there. You say you speak Spanish and you're typing in English, which means that you know more English than I know Spanish, probably. Okay, still for Canada, it's like $4 more because it's shipping internationally, and the cost is a little bit higher shipping there. Irish. I have not been to Ireland. I was in Canada not too long ago. Went to Montreal. I have been to the UK, but I have not been to Ireland. In the UK, we went to London and then part of Scotland. In Scotland, we went. I think we went through Glasgow, but we went to Iona when I was younger. I like Irish stuff. And as far as Canada is concerned, I've been to briefly Vancouver, but actually stayed in Whistler. So I've been to British Columbia, and then I've been to Quebec, but I've not been to Ontario, or I can't name any other provinces off the top of my head. Nova Scotia. Americans tend not to know foreign languages or foreign geography. I've been to a few places here and there, but I don't travel super often. The last trip that I did was just to Boston, so kept in the United States, but enjoyed that trip. It was nice. Boston has a different sort of it has more Italian and Chinese stuff and influence and culture than I realized. But the last time I was in Western Europe, I guess you're saying Iceland would be very much Western, but more Northern as well. I was pretty young. Or no, it was Italy. That was the last time before that, and that's when I was in college. I was very much a tourist when my family went to Italy. That's where I found out that Italians don't wear hoodies, and on top of that, don't wear cargo pants. But everyone assumed that I was English as far as people who were trying to get my attention for touristy stuff. Studied what did I study in college? I studied graphic design in college. Oh, you're in middle school. I feel weird asking where you are when you're a bit younger, but if you're saying middle school, you're probably in the United States. That was when I first messed with animation. Was middle school was where I spent more time with it, using Macromedia Flash. But if you are currently in middle school, you probably aren't super familiar with that program because it's no longer around. A lot of the animations I did in middle and high school were a bit more violent. I did a lot of like stick figures fighting, that sort of deal, or like untimely or ironic deaths of stick figures. I liked Flash fine, but I can understand not liking it. Flash helped me to better understand the difference between vector-based images and raster-based images, because Flash was a vector-based program, so that means that it's mathematical shapes where the computer isn't recording a bunch of different pixels. That's what a raster image is. It means that you can scale it up or down to any size and you won't lose the smoothness of anything. You might lose some quality because if you work small with anything, the closer in you get, the less specific things are. But Flash helped me to better understand that because you can zoom in indefinitely, and because it's just recorded as math, as a curve, it scales up or down to whatever scale. And then I worked a lot in Illustrator as well. When I was in high school, I started off using the pen tool in Photoshop because I was more familiar and comfortable in that space. But eventually started using Illustrator because I was like, it doesn't matter how big or small I make this. I can have a much smaller file size as well, which is, I think, why Flash was as advantageous as it was. Where you didn't have the same ability to have large video files. Traditional animation at Disney was a process that had to be refined, and it changed a bit over time how it was executed. But typically what you would have is pencil tests where you would draw in pencil on standard paper using a light table or something like that to get the outlines and the motion understood, and then refine that a little bit at that stage, and then you'd pass it off to someone who would outline it with ink onto a sheet of plastic. And then you had teams of people that would go and fill in the background, so you'd flip it to the reverse, and when you paint against the plastic, you get a very flat color because the surface of the plastic is flat, and then you take those cells and place them and photograph them. So you had teams of people working on different stages of the animation. Yep. Tweening. The term tween comes from traditional animation where you have keyframes, and then you would have the in-between frames, the tweens, the interstitial ones. And typically it would be like a more senior editor would do. Hello, Marine. A senior editor would do, or a senior animator, not editor. That's fine. You can listen to music and not talk while you're animating. To each his own. So you have someone who's a keyframe animator, and they're typically a bit more senior because they're establishing more of the movement. And then you have in between animators that are going in and filling in, that are doing more of the sort of grunt work. Thank you, Marine. That's nice of you to say about the work. But with Flash or digital things, you can have keyframes in different variety of tweens, which is just telling the computer, like, I have this shape here, and I want over a period of frames for it to move over here. And when I was first working in Flash, I don't know if it had easing, but I didn't know how to use easing at that time. So you get a very unnaturalistic look to the movement if you're using purely motion tweens without any easing, because it just basically takes, like, let's say you have the circle is here and you want it to move over here in 5 frames. For the sake of me, I'm just going to say in 3 frames. What the computer will do is just evenly distribute, this isn't perfect, but evenly distribute the tweens for the frames, but that's not a naturalistic movement because things require some start and stopping time for movement. So a more realistic look would be something where it has to first speed up ideally it would have more frames going, so it would have to start slower and increase the spacing, and then also decrease the spacing. I'm going to add another potential frame in here. So the spacing isn't as even. So if you're working digitally and you just say, I want this to be here in this amount of time, it doesn't look as naturalistic as something that accelerates and decelerates. Because things don't, acceleration. And I know that technically things only accelerate because acceleration is defined simply as a change in speed. So deceleration is still, physics terms, considered acceleration. And then, so that's if you're using straight up easing. But when it comes to hand-drawn animation, you can create more exaggerated elements of it. So you might have it have distortion as it's moving. You can distort things in different ways. You could have it be this way. You could have it even like create something of a square as it's moving from point A to point B. I can believe that you do A5 paper animations. Because I'm American, I don't know what size that is, like what the actual dimensions are for that. we just have standard copy paper, which is 8.5 by 11 inches. And then there's legal and tabloid. Which are legal paper is 8.5 by 14, and tabloid is 11 by 17. But once you get larger than that, there are some like poster sizes. It's weird for American standardization. It's not the most practical thing. Let's look up how large A5 paper. It's 5 7/8 inches by 8 1/4 inch is A5 size. So it's something closer to like half of this. A5 says that, at least when I Googled, A5 is smaller than A4. It's more like half of a piece of letter paper for US sizes. I don't know, do they use the same system in Mexico or Canada for paper sizes, or is it generally North American that uses letter, legal, tabloid? So that's the golden ratio. For the idea that if you, oh wait, no, that's if you take a square out of it. Someone ordered a shirt. That one I have to actually ship. I don't think that you can have anything where cutting it in half that it has the same proportion. Unless it's two square. No, I don't think you can do that. I don't think there's anything where you can cut it in half and it has the same proportions. Right? Because if you have like a square, then you're having one of the dimensions. What if it's like 4 by 8? Because then you just have it and then it's a square. It doesn't make sense in my mind. Maybe it does work, but it just doesn't make sense conceptually. Just trying to think of how that works. Because if you're tearing it in half, then that side has to be the same ratio as the one above it. I'll try to look more into it. I'm having trouble understanding it. Because I know the golden ratio, if you take a square from the page, then the remainder is the same aspect ratio of the two sizes. Thanks for sending me the link to the video about paper sizes. What kind of pen do I use? Depends on what I'm using the pen for. I'm using a brush and ink. This is not going to be an animation. There's some. I'll do a live of me animating at some point. Most recently, I've been needing to do other things after animating, so I've been not. Animating takes more time, and so I'm never 100% sure how long it will take me. Usually, it takes me longer to animate than I anticipate. There are live streams of me animating if you want to check those out on YouTube. I think you were the one asking about that earlier. Those are the ones that might be like 3 hours or longer. I think I'm about done with this. At least with this stage, it's going to take not terribly long, but it will take a minute to fill out the solid areas digitally. Okay, I think it's time. The circular one, it's all randomly placed. So the next step is I'm going to scan this and then fill in the solids digitally because it is much faster and much easier to do it that way. So bear with me a moment. Oh, Maxime. Yeah, so traditional animation, so someone just said, "That's so nice. You don't clean up. You just draw." Um, most of the time, I just go directly to the ink stage, which is something that I think creates a more distinctive look, and why my work isn't as typical, and what it all looks like. I might sketch on occasion, but I'm a little bit more haphazard and controlled, so it's somewhere in between, because my stills are somewhere between a sketch and a final product, which isn't what it typically would be. Okay, here we go. So here this is scanned. I'm going to darken these outlines a bit. So we'll have more of a checkerboard pattern. So I'll display it. Hello, BSCO, SZO. Let's save this as Photoshop. This has more of a like a German expressionist vibe to it. See if this will work or not. Last time it was freaking out. It's working this time. Okay. You can see Easter Island stuff. It's simplified. It's not terribly different from an Easter Island head, because an Easter Island head is square. They might, I forget if they have ears, but they have very strong bridge, and then coming down to the nose, and then across, which is what is largely being featured in these. I can't put my finger in front of it. But Easter Island statues, that makes sense. It's a lot of stuff where it's just simplified depictions of faces. And how to reinterpret or repurpose those to a different setting. And it's something that has some of the elements of like what graphic design seeks to do, where it's trying to clearly convey complex things. And the thing that I think you can most directly or most extremely modify and have it still understood is a face. Faces. Thank you for saying that you like my shirt. It's my shirt. If you want one of these, you can get it in my web store. Maybe tonight, but if not tonight, in the near future, I will be taking a photo of me wearing this shirt and then have that design on a shirt. You can still see the first shirt. This isn't the highest quality camera I'm using. I'm just using my phone to photograph my shirt. But yeah, so this was okay sort of success. It's a little bit more chaotic than probably would have wanted had I planned it out a little bit more. You're asking what time it is currently. It is just about 5 p.m. or 1700 hours. 17. I know a few people from Argentina. And a couple people who are there. Anyway, any other questions about things or process? I'm trying to get back to doing some animation soon, but it's just very time consuming, and I haven't had an open evening for that recently. I also might need to prep some bonjour. That's clicking. I didn't think about that being annoying, especially if you can't see it happening. Another French person. Some French folks. Some Argentinian. I don't know if Reno's still around, but I believe that he's in Mexico here and there. Thank you, Neely's. Californian. I remember Rosa, but she's Brazilian. But lives in California now, I think. I have trouble remembering where everyone's from, but I think I got those. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, any questions, thoughts, concerns, curiosities? If you want to purchase this on a shirt or another design, this one will be on a shirt pretty soon, or at least able to be. Yep, I was right about Brazil and California. It'll be available to have put on a shirt in the near future. Being approximately this size, I think maybe a little bit shorter. The largest print size that I can do with the print fulfillment service that I use is 12 by 18 inches. My live stream setup, I have a camera up here. Let me turn that off for a second. I have a camera up here that is a higher quality, newer camera that I only got recently. And that's pointing down. And then I have a slightly older webcam here that does decently, but isn't as good with low light and doesn't have as much of a range, exposure range, so it sort of gets blown out and then tries to compensate, where this camera deals a lot better with the dynamic range. And then I have a snowball microphone for audio, because it's good for general audio. That's set up right around here. I'm streaming through OBS. I think it's like Open Broadcast System or something like that, but it's available. Measurement chart. I don't have one set up on the site. There's a little bit of variance in personal shirts that I've printed and ones that are being fulfilled. But if you look up Bella and Canvas 3001C, it's a pretty standard shirt that people use for printing on shirts. If you were looking at older ones, I think only more recently I added it in the description for shirts. Currently what I'm wearing is a small. On top of using OBS, you also need to use Yellow Duck. These are unisex t-shirts. Sorry, let me scroll back and see what people are saying. I think the smalls fit okay, but if you it's relatively tight. It's a longer shirt, so if you have a shorter torso, that can be an issue. If you're at all aware of a brand of blank t-shirts that you like, I can see if it's available for the print service and do that as a custom one. It might be a little bit more, or maybe even less, depending on what the shirt is. This one's sort of like the baseline price. It's easy enough to have it put onto other shirt styles if it's a one-off deal, But in the case of having it available in the shop for people to come through and purchase without my interaction in a more automated system, it's easier to just use one type of shirt per design. Um, if you are trying to use OBS to go to Instagram, you need to use Yellow Duck or some other program that takes that stream and pushes it that way. No guarantee that Instagram will continue to support this for an extended period of time, at which case I will probably pivot to use Twitch. I do have a Twitch account, but it's not active currently. It exists, but let's see. For making prints, I don't use a printer myself to make prints other than for reference printouts. And for that, for speed and ease, and because I'm using black and white, I just have a black and white laser printer. The cheapest one that I could find that had a decent size tray for the paper was a Brother brand printer. The thing that really gets expensive with any sort of printer, but especially laser printers, is if you're not printing that often with it, the cost for replacing the toner is more expensive than if you're replacing a smaller ink cartridge, but ink cartridges also very expensive. Depending on how much you're printing, if you're printing a lot of things, I would suggest asking some photographers maybe. But if you're only printing a couple items, it's probably cheaper to spend some time conversing with a print shop or something like that. Reaching out to local people is nice, or just smaller shops, because you can ask more direct questions. It'll be more expensive, but you'll probably get better results because you can specify the usage and ask them questions that are more specific to your needs than if you were to have it done by a larger company. You can get it done by a larger company, and that's fine too. And maybe it's just as good for your usage, but it's a little bit easier to get nuance and specific stuff if you're talking to a smaller print shop. If I'm actually printing myself, I'm usually doing relief print or screen printing if I'm doing large quantities of things, or moderate quantities of things, just because I like how the ink picks up and that there's a different texture and feel to those items compared to a laser or inkjet print. Trying to see what Baron, you can make an animation printing and rescanning, decreasing resolution each time. That's a possibility. I would more, I could, I just would have to mess with it, and then scaling it up, I'd have to decide whether or not I wanted to treat it as something else. It would probably end up just looking like I changed the resolution digitally. If you're not showcasing the textural elements of the print or the scan in the scaling, then it can have mixed results that just sort of look more digital. I like proving that something is done a certain way, which usually means showing the flaws of stuff. Let's see, scaling back down to see what people said. Brothered, as a printing company, makes a lot of printers. That is just if you're using it for reference. It was the cheapest moderate one that I could get, a tray bed that was about $250. I was using it to print out a couple thousand stills, and I started off using an inkjet printer, but the speed and the requirement of me to resupply the paper into like just a standard desktop inkjet printer, it was not worth it to me, and so I purchased a laser printer. those have crisper edges, but can also have more ghosting print by print because it's adhering the toner to the page using heat, and sometimes there's some issues there. And okay, goodbye in France if you already. Bella, thank you, Mr. or Mrs. Now, Mr. Snow. I can. So Rosa Carmen, for getting a shirt. If you know or can find the measurements, or I can try. What I use for print fulfillment is Printful. If you go to printful.com, you might be able, or you should be able to find what their products are, and they will probably have a little bit more in-depth charts and such of sizing for shirts. And if you find a shirt that you like and send me a message or something like that, I can have it printed on that shirt pretty easily and shipped to you. It would probably just be that you would pay me through PayPal as opposed to using my website directly in the web store there. That would be frustrating to have some trouble finding shirts that fit well. Depending on what shirt you find, it might be a little bit pricier. I wouldn't be going for a higher or a larger profit margin on it for what I get from the shirt after printing and such. But the base cost of some of the shirts are higher or lower, depending on which one you go for. So it might be as much as like $10 more. Just depends on what shirt you were looking at. But printful.com, and then I can order whatever shirt and print it on there. Have it printed on that shirt and have it delivered to you for about the same price. There's a chance that if it's a different shirt, that the printable area will be a little bit different, so it might be a little bit smaller or have a different size or a different relationship to the shirt as a whole. But I can send you whatever mock-up of those shirts that it does digitally. Has my art style been like this for a while, or have I felt like fluctuating between different art styles before? Person is new to my work and wondering how your journey of finding your own style was. I have sort of settled into this for this sort of branding. I have other work that I do that isn't specific to this style. This is an easy style for me to return to and augment and adjust and change to different formats because it's pretty simplified. The supplies are translatable to different formats because it's primarily black and white and solids. Okay, it would make sense that they have a standard size. At least for someone asked about having a hoodie printed a while ago, and I had that worked out. The size on the hoodie was much more limited than on t-shirts. As far as fluctuating style, I fluctuate a little bit here and there. Push it a little bit as stuff progresses or what the format is. But I experiment with other things here and there. It's not as comfortable to work in those spaces, so I'm a little bit more hesitant because the results aren't as immediately gratifying for me when I'm working in other... Okay, yeah, just making sure the camera wasn't frozen. Whenever I look to see, I'm keeping a pretty settled position. Yeah, Thanks for taking that initiative and finding a shirt that better fits for you. I don't know what specifically you're looking for. The ones that are currently on the sites are adult, unisex, Bella, plus canvas. 3001C, I think is what it is. And I think the main thing for them is that sometimes they run a little bit long, but it's a nice texture to the shirt compared to a Hanes or a Fruit of the Loom or something like that. It has a better feel and a little bit stretchier. It prints about the same for my experience of doing screen printing, but these prints are a different method than screen printing. Any other questions, concerns, comments, curiosities? Again, if it's international shipping that you're looking for, DM me or email me or contact me some other way you might know, but those are the two easiest for me. If you're direct messaging me, then it should be open. And email is traceloops@traceloops.com. Not the most inventive. I'll throw this back up so you can look at it again. That's fine. You can be picky, and taking the initiative to discuss it with me or bring it up to me means that you'll have a better experience and have something that you like. Something else, if you're doing any holiday shopping, shopping stuff, then the deadline for that, according to the fulfillment service for North American shipping or US shipping, is about December 10th. There's a chance that if you were to order after that date that you would still get it in time for holidays, but that's their best estimate of the cutoff date. Yeah, so thank you all for watching. Doesn't seem like anyone else has any questions, and so I will be heading out, planning on being back tomorrow. Thanks for watching. If you want to watch this in full, you can go to YouTube. Just search TraceLoops and it should pop up. I don't think I have enough of a following to have a custom URL yet. I haven't checked back in on that in a minute. This will be available for shirts. You can go to traceloops.com/store and see that there. I'll also post about it and have a sped up version of this live stream. And yeah, any questions, concerns, or comments, you can message me directly on Instagram. I'm more likely to see it if you email me. TraceLoops@traceloops.com. Okay, thank you all. And oh, I did freeze. Froze. Not looking great. Oh, wrong one. Sorry, I'm just trying to get this. Okay. Now it's working. Okay. Oh, that made that tiny. Come on. Anyway, thank you. Goodbye.